Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, General Nicholson. Thank you for taking command of our mission in Afghanistan. And thank you for meeting with me earlier this week. I appreciate the generosity of your time. We officially ended our combat mission in Afghanistan at the end of 2014, but obviously we still maintain a substantial presence there. And one of our primary objectives in Afghanistan is to help build and sustain the capacity of the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces to secure their own country, as you've discussed. And that includes paying salaries for Afghan personnel. Now, I understand why this kind of support is powerfully important when you're trying to build a local force. But in a report issued last month identifying the greatest threats to the success of our mission, the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction repeated the nagging problem of salaries being paid to non-existent or so-called ghost soldiers and ghost police officers. To succeed, I understand that the Afghan forces must be trained and capable, but above all, they must be fully manned. There must actually be people there. And although they're authorized at 352,000, reports have estimated that there are still tens of thousands of those ghost personnel who are getting salaries and included in those numbers. So that means the strength of the Afghan forces must be substantially less. It's dangerous for our troops, obviously, damaging to the missions. It's also just plain old corruption, and the American taxpayers are footing the bill. General, I know that you recently identified corruption as a serious problem that you wanted to tackle, one of the biggest challenges facing the Afghan security forces. And so I wondered, could you just speak to the question of how we're helping the Afghan ministries of defense and interior develop a fully operational system to help eliminate this problem?
Thank you, Senator, for highlighting this issue. And it is a critical issue. In fact, as we looked at the high casualty rates last year, the principal causes that we identified were, number one, failures in leadership on the battlefield. The second was corruption, as you've highlighted. So the corruption primarily has occurred in the pay system and the personnel system, as you've highlighted, ma'am, and also in the supply system. The third factor of high casualties was tactics, and primarily the reduction of the checkpoints out there, the isolated checkpoints that become more vulnerable to attack. So back to the point of corruption, how to improve this. And this is where in my opening statement I commented on President Ghani's courage in going after this. So we have done a number of things. On the specific issue of ghost soldiers, you're correct. We believe there are some tens of thousands fewer soldiers in the field than have been reported. And we work closely with the CGAR on this going forward and with the government of Afghanistan. So specifically this year, in response to this problem, we have issued a letter to the Afghan government advising them that we are withholding the funding for those soldiers who we cannot biometrically account for. So the biometric enrollment of soldiers creates an identity in the system that is hard to fake, basically. Whereas previously, we paid based upon the number that they stated that they had. So the biometric enrollment is ongoing, and we look to have that complete in the next 4 to 5 months. And but then we will give them the money for those soldiers who are actually biometrically enrolled. We've additionally asked for capabilities to better follow our money through the Afghan ministries, to follow the money, ensure it's not being inappropriately diverted, so we can be good stewards of our taxpayer resources.
Good. Thank you very much, General. You know, we've been in Afghanistan for 15 years. We've spent $117 billion in American taxpayer funds. And according to the Special Inspector General, we're spending $13 million every day to be in Afghanistan, $13 million. More than 2,000 American service members have made the ultimate sacrifice there. More than 8,400 American service members are there today, along with thousands of diplomatic personnel and contractors. Our military and it cannot and should not be in Afghanistan forever. Our end goal must be to help Afghanistan build a self-sustaining force that's capable of securing the country so our U.S. troops can come home. And I appreciate your work in this direction. Thank you, General.
Thank you, Senator.